The Niners have one quarterback under contract. It's Brock Purdy. They're probably going to extend him, but they also have to fill out the quarterback room. They used to talk about how important it was to have a good quarterback room. Eagles, they got Jalen Hurts. Then they added Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee. That's a good quarterback room. Who should the Niners add to their room to make it good so they can win if Brock Purdy gets hurt, which he tends to do sometimes? It's football.
Oh, that happens. Yeah.
It does.
There is a certain name that is going to be a free agent this offseason.
Okay.
And it's a name that Niners fans know. And I'm not saying this name because I think they should pick him. I just want to put out the idea. What if Trey Lance came back?
I knew you were going to say that.
What if he came back?
You're going to say that. Here's what I'm thinking. Probably not. I'm thinking, but what about if he goes to Washington? Adam Peters. I bet you Adam Peters was a big reason the Niners drafted Trey Lance. Does he still believe in him? They need a backup for Jaden Daniels.
That's what I'm looking for
Trey Lance. Yes.
That would be good for him too, honestly. Like that'd be a good fit. But as much as a fun joke it is to say that, I think the real answer is you got to go for. I don't really like the idea of drafting a quarterback in the draft for them because I think they need to make use of their draft picks on players that'll actually make an impact like pretty quick. But out of the guys that are on free agency right now, you got two guys in particular that are vets that I think could help Brock Purdy's progression and make him better. You got Marcus Mariota, you got Jacoby Brissett. Those are two guys that I think have great football knowledge to them. It's not like they're dumb. Like they both are proven to be really good players. Mariota has a Heisman, for God's sakes. Like he's clearly got something to him. And I think if you bring them in, it can really help him out and give him, more education in the quarterback room to just improve his game. But then you look at a guy that's like younger that they can bring into the 49ers QB camp and make them like the new Sam Darnold and make him good. Zach Wilson's going to be free too. You get him, make him on the third string team, see how he performs, maybe you can trade him through the year to a team that needs a quarterback if they like him, I don't see why not at that point. Like everyone's already turned their back on him. Why not give him a shot?
I like that. Here's what the Niners are going to do. They're going to elevate Tanner Mordecai to the 53, and they're going to sign another undrafted free agent, and they're going to have two undrafted free agents and Brock Purdy, and they're going to think it's really cool. Hey, look, we didn't invest anything in our quarterbacks. I'm sorry. Maybe they won't. But what I would do is I like the Zach Wilson one. That's kind of interesting. Give him a 2-year deal, probably cheap. What I think was rough about the Darnold thing was they gave him a 1-year deal. He learns your system, and then he leaves and plays well for someone else. I mean, if it's going to take you a year to teach a guy your system, maybe like a 2-year deal, keep a guy around so you're not just like preparing him for the next team. You want to back. You don't want to be constantly teaching a system to a backup who can't play, and then he learns your system and he's gone. So yeah, Zach Wilson to a 2-year deal. That's interesting. What about like Justin Fields to a 2-year deal? I mean, I know he's not a good fit, but every team is looking for all the remaining quarterbacks are dual threats.
Yeah,
a good dual threat quarterback is the ultimate weapon in football.
Yeah,
they're hard to find, and they take a little bit of development sometimes. Not saying he's one, but he's kind of failed on 2 teams. What do you think about Justin Fields?
I just think he's going to be getting a decent sized contract. I don't think that he's
probably
going to be
somewhere to compete. He wouldn't want
exactly. Yeah, I don't think he'd want to be here and be like, oh, you're going to be the second string again. And this time, instead of it being behind like Russ, who he's clearly like there's a competition there, it's behind Brock, and there's obviously no competition there. Like the Niners are going to do Brock.
I agree with that. And what about someone like Mac Jones? Like, no one really is into. I mean, kind of flopped.
I wouldn't be surprised if Shanahan wanted him, just because he kind of gives me like that Jimmy G vibe, like that old white guy that just like doesn't use his legs at all. You know what I mean? Like, and he's just in the pocket, just sitting there. Like that's Jimmy G to a T right there. And it wouldn't surprise me. I just think that if you go after those other 2 guys that I was saying, it's just better. Like you're learning more. I just don't see what Mac's going to provide. He looked good in Jacksonville this year. I will say he had a few games where he was like not terrible, but he had a lot of games where he was.
I do feel like he could do a lot of what Brock Purdy does on this team.
Yeah, I could see that happening. But do you think he's going to be able to take the job away from Brock? Is that what you're implying, or you just
no? I'm talking backups. I'm just talking backups here.
Okay.
I think he could I mean, because like when Brock went down this year, they put in Brandon Allen. You can't win with Brandon Allen. You can't win with Josh Dobbs. Like you need someone better than that, because the Eagles did win a game with Kenny Pickett, and they did win a game with Tanner McKee, and 2 years ago the Niners were good enough to win with Jimmy and Trey and Brock. So they gotta get back to that, in my opinion. So I'm interested in actually like a trade. Okay. How about
Okay.
this? He's outside the box. And this guy, he's not that great. But he's a second round pick a couple of years ago. And he went to a terrible team and he got to start. And of course, he didn't do well, but so many quarterbacks fail in those circumstances. So this is a second round pick who's 2 years of starting experience. And you could probably get him for like a conditional 6th or a conditional 7th as a potential second string quarterback, maybe third. I'm hesitating to say his name because it's like not a great reveal. Will Levis.
Okay, yeah, that's where I thought you were going with that. He's another one that I find really interesting.
On Tennessee.
Yeah, he's on a terrible team. He's on a really
terrible
bad team. And
he's got a cannon.
He does have an arm. I'll give him that. He's got
a live arm.
Yeah, what has he done though?
At Kentucky, hhis offensive coordinator was Liam Cohn, who's running a similar system. So he's kind of been exposed. One of his years, his offensive coordinator was Scangarello, who's awful, but he comes from the Niners.
I could see
conditional 7th.
I think that they would want more.
2 years left on his deal.
I think that the Titans, they're going for like a 5th or a 4th for Levis. You know, like I think they want more, and I just don't know.
The reason I say conditional 6th is that's what the Bears got for Fields. And I think it's what the Patriots got for Mac. And those were first-round picks. So, I wouldn't give up a 5th-round pick for Will Levis by any means. But if it's a conditional 6th, and it's like, conditional is, well, it's a 4th if he plays 51% of the snaps. Oh, well, he won't. So, cool.
Yeah. I guess if they
you wonder why Justin Fields got benched in Pittsburgh? Because it was a conditional pick that would have became a 4th if he'd played 51% of the snaps. Oh, sorry.
Would have been a lot worse for them.
Yeah.
I guess I like that a little bit, but I just question, like, because for Justin Fields and for Mac Jones, they were both unhappy in their situations, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like they kind of needed.
He might want to go to a place where he has a chance to compete. Also, Barry Baller 18 says Levis makes terrible decisions. True.
Yeah. We need to talk about more.
Sam Darnold does.
We got to talk about Levis's not celebration. Sorry, his meme moments that he had of like him throwing the pick. He's on the ground like this, and then like next.
It's true. It's not a great one. Again, I'm not talking about him taking Purdy's job. I'm just looking for backups who are better than Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs, and maybe Will Levis isn't one. I feel like people in this draft are talking about it's not a good year for quarterbacks. Yeah, if you're looking for a franchise starting quarterback, maybe not. But if you're looking for a backup, I think there's a lot of interesting options. And again, I said earlier, there's Jackson Dart, although I'm skeptical because he plays for Lane Kiffin, who's had a lot of quarterbacks who've produced in college but haven't translated. So I don't know about Jackson Dart, but the tape looks good. He's mobile, he's accurate, he's got a nice little mix of skills. But the guy I like that I would take a chance on, and again, I'm always wrong on quarterbacks, terrible at scouting them, and I always change my philosophy every year. Now, again, I'm looking for the next dual threat quarterback. I think every team should have a dual threat project on their roster. It could take 3 years, it could take 5 years, but if you hit on that guy ever, it's the best weapon. And I like that Green Bay has Malik Willis on their team, even though they have to run a different offense with him than they do with Jordan Love. I think it's smart. So I would take, if I were the general manager of the Niners, well, I'm not going to say it because I haven't even seen the combine yet, but I'm interested in Jaylen Milroe. I'm interested in Jaylen Milroe. And let me say why. His passing is rough. He's raw. So is Jalen Hurts at Alabama. I mean, they're very similar. They have the same first name. They played at the same school. Their numbers at Alabama are very similar. And Jaylen Milroe is a better athlete than Jalen Hurts. Like Jaylen Milroe is going to run a 4.3 at 220 pounds. Yeah. He had like 33 rushing touchdowns. So even if he's not your starter and he's Brock's backup, there could be some type of red zone package where he comes in and just runs quarterback sweeps, and all of a sudden, boom, your red zone offense works again. I mean, it'd be interesting to have a totally different player, him and Zach Wilson. I'm just interested to have. I know Kyle doesn't want that skill set, although he dabbled in it with Trey Lance. Milroe is such a better athlete than Trey Lance.
Yeah.
He's a better athlete than freaking Christian McCaffrey. I mean, faster, bigger. So
I think the thing that makes that more interesting to me is the idea of you draft him, you develop him. If it
over time,
Yeah. And then like
Yeah.
over time, and even
Yeah.
if you choose like, okay, we want to stay with Brock, you can trade him
Yes.
and get assets out of that
Hell
still.
yeah.
So like it's still a win. My
Yes.
question for you though is what is like the line of like what round is unacceptable to draft Jaylen Milroe in?
It's
Like
a
is
good
there a
question.
limit or like what's like because this guy in the chat saying he's gonna be a fifth rounder and I don't know. I feel like he might
I
go a
mean,
little
Jalen
higher.
Hurts was a second-round pick with a similar resume. He did go to Oklahoma and have one more year of experience. Jalen Milroe doesn't have that. But I could see him going in round 2. And I would consider taking the Niners have like the 45th pick. I'd consider it. I mean, if you want a good quarterback, a guy who has a chance to be a starter on a Super Bowl winning team, you probably got to take him in round 1 or round 2. There's always the exception. There's the Russell Wilson, the Brock Purdy, the Tom Brady, but they're few and freaking far between. Everyone wants a quarterback. The NCAA is doing a better job than ever of developing them and so that they're more ready to play because there's more reps to go around, more passing, more opportunities
Yeah,
with
more
the
ball reps.
NIL and the transfer portal. So I think if you wait until round 3 to get a quarterback, you're probably getting a backup, which is fine. But if you want to get someone who might have that chance to be that dual threat, Jalen Hurts, who's not a great quarter, like Jaylen Milroe isn't going to be Jaden Daniels ever.
No,
But if
definitely
he
not.
could be Jalen Hurts and you get him in round 2, I mean, it's a nice backup quarterback to have.
So then give me this. If Jaylen Milroe and Scattaboo are in round 2, who you picking?
The quarterback, the quarterback, the quarterback, the quarterback, the quarterback. Running backs are a dime a dozen. They're important. But this guy isn't Christian McCaffrey. He's not like changing your team. He's good, but the quarterback.
I don't know, man. I think if it's me, I'm definitely going for Scattaboo
Scatterman.
there.
Well,
Yeah, I
it's a
think
fun name
Scat.
to say.
Oh, it's so fun.
It's a
Wasn't
fun name
he
to say.
a
And as a
Niners
running
fan
back,
growing up?
scat in the name. Okay, what's a better name for a running back? Scatty or Gainwell?
Ooh, those are
Is Gainwell
two
not the perfect running back name?
because you gain well, like you gain
He
yards.
he
You know,
literally gains well. That's what he was
yeah,
born to play that position.
that does kind of work out that way.
I like
It would
that
be good if
name.
there was this will never happen, but if there was a running back with the last name running back, that'd be my favorite player of all time. I would literally be the happiest human ever. That would just
Or
be
a
so
football
good.
player with the last name football player.
That
Wow.
oh my god. Or just player. Just give
Oh
me
my God.
player of football and I'll be
Just
happy.
player.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that there's a quarterback with the last name of Penix, and everyone has to say it with a straight face, but everyone's very careful when they say that name.
The
Oh yeah, that's a
extra
normal name.
favorite part about that though is the fact that the Falcons have picked two quarterbacks, left-handed quarterbacks. Both start with the name Mike. Both last names, if you change out one letter, is a reference to a certain region of the body. You know, you got Michael
True.
Vick, you got Penix. Change
Here's
one
another
letter.
thing. Remember Hendon Hooker from a few years ago? Did part of you want the Raiders to get him just so you could get a Hooker jersey? Just part of you?
So I've had so many jokes with my
Just walk
friends about
around
that.
town?
Oh yeah, dude. No, it would be
Hooker
like
19.
Hooker would make a big play, and it was like, look at that Hooker go. You know, like it was just always a
Like,
joke. It was
I
always
don't know.
like,
I'm really immature, but that crossed my mind.
oh, I'm a
That would be
child.
a
Like I loved that. It was so funny back in the day. Like it was great. There's been so many great football names. Like I remember laughing at Ha Ha Clinton Dix. That was a great one. That's just a great name.
ooh. That couldn't I remember seeing him in mock drafts thinking this can't be real. This is too
Yeah,
good.
being like what and what about Kool-Aid McKinstry? What about that? That's a wild one. Kool-Aid in the
Is he
first
still
name?
around? He's still in the league, right?
Yeah. He like just got picked up recently. I'm pretty sure like 2 years ago he got drafted, I think. Kool-Aid
Puts a lot of
McKinstry.
pressure on a DB when they have a name like Kool-Aid or Sauce.
I know, right? Like that
Because
gets tough.
once you get beat, it's like the sauce has gone bad. You know?
That's happening to Sauce right now. He's not looking the same
Yeah.
he did his rookie year.
The sauce has gone bad. Hey, Connor, great debut, man. It was a pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for letting me on, man. I had a great time. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.